Hey guys, ECRG here, back with another episode. Today we're going to be talking about negotiating your clinical research salary. Now, this is something I get often. A question that comes through oftentimes is how to negotiate your salary in clinical research, or can you do an episode on negotiating your clinical research salary? So here it is, guys. I've got a bunch of tips here about negotiating your salary in the clinical research industry specifically. So if this episode does not help you get more money with these tips, I don't know what to tell you. But for those who want more specific examples or more specific training on negotiating your salary, you can email me eliteclinicalgroup@gmail.com. And then we can go over your specific situation. We can set up a time to go over it, specifically on negotiating your salary. So email in and talk about you want some help negotiating your salary. And we'll talk about the different options there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So before we get into it, let's just go ahead and say if you have any questions or concerns about getting into clinical research, email me eliteclinicalgroup@gmail.com. If you're interested, obviously, in resume review, interview preparation, or career consultation, or even negotiating your salary, you want to email me there also. So now let's go ahead and get into it, guys. First thing you got to do is you got to make sure that the timing is right. So typically you want to negotiate the salary after you receive an offer rather than during the interview process. So make sure that you have an offer in hand before you start trying to negotiate. Typically they may try and ask you questions when you're talking with the hiring manager or when you're talking with a recruiter about what your salary is going to look like, or what kind of salary you're looking for. And you don't really want to mention a number during that phase. You only want to talk numbers towards the end of the interview process, but preferably not at all during the interview process, but after they make an offer. So you want to let them make the first offer on your salary. And that's when you're going to have the most leverage. And you want to have the most leverage typically after you've proven that you're the best candidate for the job. And that happens when you have an offer in your hand. So if they offer you over the phone, if they present the initial offer to you over the phone, it's normally okay to ask for some time to process the information that they've given you in that offer. Normally, it's also okay, even if they email it to you, to ask for some time too. So you definitely want to, let them know that you appreciate their offer and you're excited about that opportunity. And then just ask if you can, take some time to review it and get back with them. So you definitely want to tell them that you'll get back with them in about 48 hours. And yeah, so that's basically how to do it. And there's a couple ways you can do that, either phone or email. We'll go over that a little bit later. So first, when you get that offer, you want to evaluate what you have to offer. So you want to know specifically how much value you can provide that employer, because you're going to be going back with them on these things. So there's a lot of different things that you could be talking about. One could be the cost of living. If you're in San Francisco, you're going to require a higher salary than if you're in, Minneapolis or something, or St. Louis or something like that. You also want to take note of your industry experience and, how much you're bringing to the job. You want to talk about your education level, if you got a PhD or a master's. Typically in this industry, we talk in experience, but if you have a master's in clinical research, that could help too. But combine that with experience. You also want to talk about your career level, things of that, because your level may, require a, higher pay range. And you also want to take note of your skills, licenses, and certifications that you bring to the table too. So think about all these things before you decide to respond back. Next thing you want to do is research the market average for that salary. So you can use my videos. You can use places like Glassdoor, Indeed salaries, just a Google search. You can use all these places. LinkedIn, I think, even mentions it. So sometimes they even post the job salary range with the posting. So you can use all these things to kind of determine what the market rate is for that job and how much they could be willing to pay for you. So yeah, market research, you definitely want to look at what that company typically pays, and Glassdoor will show that. And also look at what other companies will pay for that position too. The next thing you want to do is, think about your talking points. Think about the results you've achieved in previous roles, such as, goals that you've met or revenue you've helped drive or any type of award that you've earned. And if you can, you want to use actual numbers. And I talk about this all the time in my resumes. When I do my resume reviews, is use actual numbers if you can in your resume. Again, think of your industry experience and things of that nature. And then the next thing you want to do is schedule a time to discuss. So if you've already said you're going to get back with them in 48 hours, then you can get back with them in that time. But you want to make sure that you have a time with them to discuss the offer and discuss what you bring into the table. Next thing you want to do is make sure that you rehearse and go over what kind of things you're going to say to them. This is obviously if you're going to do this over the phone. So you want to make sure that you rehearse and that you kind of think of all these things that you bring to the table. And you can even write down a guide. Talk about your experience, talk about your licenses and certifications, talk about, what level you're at, talk about market rate, and then rehearse. And then next thing you want to do is make sure that when you're presenting that you're confident in what you bring to the table. So you want to make sure that you sound very confident in what you're saying, that, yeah, I have earned this. I've worked hard to, earn this salary that I'm requesting from you. I have worked hard to develop these skills, develop, all of this experience and stuff over the years to be able to present this to you, and I deserve this salary that I'm asking for. So make sure you're being confident. Of course, you want to make sure you are being thankful. You are thankful for the opportunity. So you want to start off like that, saying, I'm really appreciative of you guys interviewing me, and thank them for the offer, thank them for the opportunity to even interview, and be very, very gracious. And then the next thing you want to do is when you're asking for a salary range is ask for the top of that range. You want to make sure that you are starting your negotiation from the top because they're typically negotiating downwards. So you want to make sure you start at the top so that you still end up in an acceptable range for you. So give them a higher number than what your goal salary is typically. And if you give them a range, they're going to typically go to the bottom of that range. That's one thing you want to keep in mind. So go to the top of that salary range. Another thing you can ask is, share any job-related expenses that could occur because of this job. Another reason is that you could, oftentimes negotiate higher salary because of that. So for example, if there's any moving cost associated with it, you can ask for that. People all the time ask for that. I've heard people, when people work for banks, they provide down payment assistance if they had purchased a home. You probably have to be pretty high up in clinical research for that to occur. But, for them to move you across the country, that happens all the time. For them to pay the moving fees and the moving company and things of that nature. So you definitely want to think of that. And then another thing you want to do is make sure that you prepare for tough questions that they may ask. So keep in mind that these people negotiate with other people all the time. So you want to make sure that you're prepared. So some things that they may ask are we your top choice? If we come up in salary, will you accept this position immediately? And do you have any other salary offers? So you want to make sure you have responses prepared for those type of questions that may come through. Next thing you want to do is make sure that you're flexible. So obviously you have a target salary that you want to achieve and get from that employer, but they may not come to that salary range, or they may say, hey, look, we can give you mostly what you're asking for, but we can pay the rest in stock or options or another form of compensation. So you want to make sure that or extra vacation days or a sign-on bonus or something. So don't just negotiate straight, salary. There are other ways you can make up for it, such as stock, extra vacation days, sign-on bonus, work from home days, things like that. There could be alternatives, and don't be afraid to ask for those alternatives when you're negotiating that salary. And then, don't be afraid to walk away either. Don't be afraid to say, you know what, this isn't what I'm looking for, or this is not within the range that I'm looking for. So don't be afraid to say no. And, I know a lot of people in clinical research, they want to get the job. This is kind of more so after, you're kind of leveling up a little bit where you could walk away. I don't recommend, if you have no experience in clinical research, to just walk away from a job based on salary. It's most important for you at that time to kind of get your foot in the door and get experience, and then you can worry about the money later. But still negotiate. I'm definitely saying still negotiate your salary and try and get as much as you can. Don't be afraid that they're going to revoke the offer if you try and negotiate your salary. That usually doesn't happen. I'm not going to say it never happens, but 9 times out of 10, that doesn't happen. So they definitely want you to negotiate your salary. They expect you to negotiate their salary, and they're probably, more alarmed if people don't try and negotiate their salary. And there's some examples of emails you can use. So, I'll have a short little example here that you can use if you're going to responding via email. So here's how you might approach that is you would say, thank you for sending over the job offer for the clinical research associate position. I want to state again how honored I am to be considered for this exciting position and appreciate you sharing these details. Before I can accept your offer, I want to address the proposed compensation. As I shared with your recruiting manager, I have more than 10 years of experience in clinical research and have worked in leadership positions for the past 6 years. In my last role, I increased the number of in my last role, I increased the number of I'm trying to adapt this here because I said clinical research associate, but I should have said something else. Just use this as an example, guys. So in my last role, I increased the number of sites selected by nearly 40% year over year and helps secure the company at 25% higher enrollment rate for subjects. Given my experience and expertise, I'm seeking a salary in the range of $145,000 to $150,000, which is slightly higher than your offer of $125,000. I know I can bring a great deal of value to whatever company and help you exceed your expectations this year. Please let me know when we can discuss this further. I look forward to hearing from you soon. So that's a pretty, standard email for negotiating your salary. So you can do that either over the phone or via email. Both are fine. Both have worked. I typically use the email approach because you can kind of think a little bit better and you can have your stuff more prepared. When you're over the phone, you might get flustered. You might not know what questions they may be asking. You may not know, what else could be going on. So I think email is a much preferred way, but it's up to you. Both can work. So I hope this was helpful, guys. Obviously, the more information you know about the position and the salary expectations, the more prepared you will be for this negotiation. So make sure you guys educate yourself. Listen to this video once, twice, 3 times so you know how to negotiate your salary and get the most. But that's pretty much it, guys. Those are the basics for how you want to negotiate your salary. So if you want individual help, email me at eliteclinicalgroup@gmail.com. Take care.